The small favor that sends you to prison. Picture this. Your husband or your wife has just been caught by a speed camera, and it's not their first. This one tips them over the edge to 12 points, which means an automatic driving ban. They need that license for work, so they turn to you with a completely reasonable face and they ask you the smallest favor in the world. Could you just say you were the one driving? It's only 3 points, nobody gets hurt. And it sounds like nothing. It sounds like the kind of little white lie a loving couple tells to get through a rough patch. But I need you to hear this before you ever open your mouth to answer, because it could not be more important. The moment you say yes, put it on me, you have not done a favor. You have committed one of the, why it's actually a serious crime, most serious criminal offences in the whole of English law. An offense that sends ordinary, respectable, never been in trouble people to prison. Not a fine, not points. Prison. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly why, exactly how they catch people, and they catch far more than you'd ever think. The real prison sentence is handed down. And the one thing to say if you're ever the person being asked. Because this is the trap that looks like kindness, and it has ended careers, marriages, and freedom. I'm Oliver Bennett. For 15 years, I defended people in police stations and courtrooms across England. While losing your license tempts people, 12 points, and Wales. And I have sat beside good, decent, otherwise law-abiding people in the dock. People who had never so much as had a parking ticket as they were sent down for exactly this. This isn't legal advice. It's the warning I wish every driver in this country had heard before they said yes. So let's start with why it's so tempting, because I understand completely how people end up here. In this country, if you rack up 12 penalty points within 3 years, you're a totter, and the court must disqualify you from driving for at least 6 months. For a lot of people, losing their license means losing their job, their income, the roof over their family's head. So when that 12th point is looming, the pressure is enormous. And taking a couple of points onto a clean license, a partner's, a parent's, a friend's, sometimes an employee's, feels like a victimless shuffle of paperwork. 3 points move from one name to another. Who could that possibly hurt? And that right there is the misunderstanding that destroys people. Because the law does not see a paperwork shuffle. The law sees a lie told to a court, and it treats that with a seriousness that shocks almost everyone who gets caught. So let me tell you what you're actually committing, and say its name clearly. Perverting the course of justice. Perverting the course of justice. When you tell the authorities that someone other than the real driver was behind the wheel, you are feeding a false account into the justice system itself. You are corrupting the very machinery that's supposed to decide who did what. And the law protects that machinery ferociously. Because if people could simply lie about who did something and swap the blame around, the whole system would collapse. That's why perverting the course of justice is not some minor motoring matter. It is an extremely serious criminal offense that in the most serious cases carries a maximum sentence of life imprisonment. Life for just 3 points. And you might think that's harsh for a driving matter, and in a way it is. But look at it from the court side for a moment, because it explains everything that follows. Every one of these lies wastes police and court time. It punishes the honest driver who takes their own points, and it lets the guilty one dodge the consequences the rest of us have to face. If the court treated it as a slap on the wrist, then everyone with a clean license partner would simply do it, and penalty points would mean absolutely nothing. So the courts have made a deliberate, consistent decision to come down hard. Because a deterrent only works if the punishment is genuinely frightening. It is meant to frighten you. My advice is, let it. Now a point swap sits at the lower end of that scale, but here is the part that catches everyone out, and I want to be very clear about it. For this offense, the courts made prison. The real sentence, it starts at prison. Start from the position that you go to prison, immediate custodial prison. Even if you have never been in trouble in your life, even if you're a nurse, a teacher, a company director, a devoted parent with children at home, the senior courts have said again and again that offences of this kind are so corrosive to justice that only in truly exceptional circumstances will the both jailed 8 months person avoid an immediate custodial sentence. In real cases, first-time good character people have been sentenced to 4 months, 6 months, 8 months inside for taking 3 points. So when your partner says it's only 3 points, the honest reply is no. It's potentially the end of your liberty, your career, and your good name all at once. And if you think that only happens to nobodies who can't afford a good lawyer, let me tell you about the most famous example in the country because it proves the exact opposite. Chris Huhne was a cabinet minister, one of the most powerful politicians in Britain. Back in 2003, he was caught speeding, and to avoid the points, he got his wife, Vicky Price, a respected, successful economist, to say she'd been driving. A tiny lie between a married couple. It stayed buried for a decade. But then their marriage fell apart, and in the fallout, the truth came out. And in 2013, a former cabinet minister and his wife, two of the most privileged, well-connected, well-advised people you could imagine, were both sent to prison for 8 months, over 3 points from 10 years earlier. If it can put a government minister in a cell, it can put anyone in one. Money and status did not save them. Nothing does, because the courts treat it as an attack on justice itself. And please, don't make the mistake of thinking Huhne and Price were some special case just because they were famous. Up and down the country, in ordinary magistrates and crown courts, you will never read about the very same sentence is handed to people whose names never make a single newspaper. Nurses, teachers, delivery drivers, small business owners, grandparents. It's not just the famous who watched it happen. A hard-working man with a spotless record who years earlier took 3 points for his wife, standing in the dock white as a sheet, while the judge explains that much as it drives the court to jail a man of his good character, the law leaves almost no other option. The only reason you've heard of Huhne and Price is the fame. The sentence they received is completely ordinary for this offense. And that is the fact that should truly frighten you. It isn't exceptional, it's normal. Now, here is the part everyone gets wrong, and it's the part that ruins people. We never get caught. You will be amazed how often and how easily these come apart. So let me walk you through exactly how people are caught, because how they catch you, once you see it, you realize how fragile the lie really is. The first way is the paperwork itself. When a car is caught on a camera, the register keeper is sent a notice of intended prosecution, and with it, a demand under Section 172 of the Road Traffic Act to say who was driving. That is a legal requirement. You must identify the driver, and you normally have 28 days to do it. And notice what that means. To carry out the swap, someone has to put a false name on that form and sign it. That is not a casual fib anymore. That's a false statement made in response to a formal legal demand, and it becomes a documented, signed piece of evidence of the lie sitting in a file with you handwriting on it. The second way is the S.172 form, plus the data, ANPR, phone, work records, that the story simply doesn't add up. The police and the courts can check where the real driver actually was. De fabuleuze pomprotinetti formation de verieux disam, de verieux de compritre, sem manivork records, a rotor, a clocking in system, CCTV, ANPR cameras reading number plates across the country. Even the location data and cell site records from a mobile phone. If the person who took the points can be shown to have been at work 50 miles away, or abroad, or probably somewhere else at the exact moment that camera flashed, the whole thing unravels. And now you're not just a speeder, you're a liar who's been caught lying to a court. But the third way is the one that gets more people than all the cameras and computers put together. And it's heartbreakingly simple. It's the fallout. Most point swaps happen between people who are close. Couples, families, friends, a boss and an employee. And relationships change. People fall out. The fallout, the one that catches most. Couples divorce. Friendships sour. Employees get sacked. And when they do, the person who took the points or the person who asked them to very often tells. Sometimes out of anger, sometimes out of guilt, sometimes just in the wrong conversation with the wrong person. That is exactly what happened to Huhne and Price. A decade of silence undone by a bitter divorce. And here's the sting in the tail. There is no time limit on this. It doesn't expire after a few years. That lie you told to help someone in 2020 can walk back through your front door in 2030 with a police officer attached to it, long after you'd forgotten it ever happened. And once a suspicion like that lands on a police desk, understand that it does not just quietly go away. It is treated as a criminal investigation, not a parking dispute. You can be invited or even arrested for a police interview under caution. Caution, where every word you say is evidence. And now you are facing a horrible choice with no good way out. Keep lying, this time to police officers directly, and you dig the hole deeper and pile fresh offences on top. Or tell the truth and confirm the very crime they are investigating. There is no clever escape from that interview room, because the trap was actually sprung years earlier, the moment a false name went onto a form, which is exactly why the only real protection is to never create the lie in the first place. And while we're here, I want to warn you about this trap's close cousin, because it catches just as many decent people. Fronting, the insurance version. It's called fronting. That's where, to bring down the cost of insurance, a family names the wrong person as the main driver. Mom or dad is put down as the main driver of a car that is really their teenagers because it makes the premium cheaper. It feels like just gaming a rip-off insurance system, but it is a false statement to your insurer, and it is fraud. And it has two nasty stings. You can face a criminal record for it, and this is the one that devastates families. If there's an accident, the insurer can refuse to pay out because the policy was based on a lie, leaving you personally liable for a claim that could run into hundreds of thousands of pounds. Same family of mistake, a small lie on a form that feels harmless and is anything but. And there's one more version of this I have to flag because the pressure inside it is even harder to resist. The workplace, when your boss asks one. A boss leans on a driver. Just take these points for the company van. I'll look after you. And the employee, frightened for their job, feels they simply can't say no. So please hear this very clearly. It does not matter one bit that your boss asked you or that you felt you had no choice. If you sign that form, you are the one who has committed the offense, and you are the one who goes to prison. Not the company, not the boss. No job on earth is worth your liberty. An employer who asks you to do this is asking you to gamble everything you have to save them an inconvenience. And when it unravels, the law will land on you, not on them. So the important part, what should you actually do? Let me give it to you plainly. If you are the driver, you take your own points. The rule, take your own points always. Full stop. That is the entire rule, and it will never once let you down. If your license is genuinely at risk from totting up to 12 points, there is a proper, legal, honest route to try to keep it. You can go to court and argue what's called exceptional hardship. You can explain to the magistrates that a ban would cause hardship beyond the ordinary to you or to others who depend on you, and they have a real power to reduce or not impose the ban. And exceptional hardship is a real winnable argument when it's genuinely true. But it has to be more than the ordinary inconvenience that everyone suffers when they lose a license. Losing your job and with it the ability to feed your children or keep your home, being the only person who can get a disabled relative to their hospital appointments, a small business that would collapse and take other people's jobs down with it. Those are the sort of things a court will genuinely weigh in your favor. You put that case honestly with evidence in open court in front of the magistrates, and win or lose, you walk out of that room with your record clean and your freedom completely intact. That is the fight worth having, not a lie that swaps a 6-month ban for an 8-month sentence. And if you are ever the one being asked, if it's your partner sitting across the kitchen table asking you to just take a couple of points for them, the kindest thing you can do for both of you is to say no. Not a cruel no, a clear one. I love you, and I'm not going to do something that could send us both to prison. Let's deal with this the proper way. Because saying yes doesn't protect the person you love. It ties your freedom to their lie, and hands a future ex or a future argument the power to destroy your life. Now, knowing exactly where these everyday legal traps are hidden, the favors that are actually crimes, the forms that are actually confessions, is the whole reason I put together a short, plain English guide to your rights and the law of everyday life in England and Wales. It's called the Know Your Rights Handbook, and it lays out calmly and without the jargon the things that can quietly turn an ordinary person into a defendant at the roadside on a form at your door. so you can see the trap before you step in it. I'm not going to give you a hard sell. If this has been useful to you, the link is in the description and it's there whenever you want it. Right, let me bring this home. If you've already done it, if you're watching this with a cold feeling in your stomach because it's already happened, then please hear this. Do not make it worse by telling another lie to cover the first one, because that is what turns a bad situation into a catastrophe. Stop. Say nothing further to anyone and speak to a criminal solicitor in confidence as soon as you can. It is always better to get proper advice than to keep digging. So, let's bring it together, because I want this one to stay with you and to protect the people you love. Taking someone else's penalty points is not a favor and it is not paperwork. It is perverting the course of justice. One of the most serious offenses there is, and it sends first-time good, ordinary people to prison, typically for months, with no time limit on when the truth can catch up with you. It brought down a cabinet minister and his wife. The temptation is real because losing a license is frightening. But the honest routes exist. Take your own points, and if a ban looms, fight it the legal way with an exceptional hardship argument in court. There is only one rule you need, and it will keep you free. You take your remember this, plus subscribe, own points every single time. If this helped you, do two things for me. Take a look at the pinned rights card in the description, so this is fixed in your mind before anyone ever asks you the favor. And subscribe, because I break down exactly these everyday legal traps every week in plain English so that the law protects you instead of ambushing you. I'm Oliver Bennett.